Welcome to the Kitchen Table Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Wolf. My wife and I run a life and health insurance brokerage firm where we help clients with those needs specifically. But we started this podcast to document our journey through entrepreneurship. We hope it helps you. So today on the podcast, I couldn't be more excited. We have the Gabe Erickson, Pinnacle Life Group President.
Yes, sir.
Couldn't be more happy that you're here. Welcome to the podcast.
Dude, super happy to be here, man. Stoked, honestly. I always love coming to the office, seeing the crew. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I love it. So today we kind of just want to talk through a little bit of your journey through entrepreneurship, how you got started, like why did you choose that path? So I'm going to kind of like let the floor be yours, and I'll interject here and there, but kind of tell a little bit about how you started into entrepreneurship, and maybe if you want to give a little bit of a backstory, that's fine too.
Sure. Dude, I'm one of those people who I heard someone say this, and I was like, that sounds weird. And then I thought about it. I was like, that fits me. Where they say they felt like they were chronically unemployable, and that they had the makings of an entrepreneur, but they didn't know that.
Got it.
And I feel like that's what I was. Dude, I'm just being honest. I've always kind of like not liked people telling me what to do.
Sure.
It's weird because I like learning and I seek instruction, but I've always kind of like bucked that.
Yeah.
And I think that was like if someone could have told me when I was younger, like, you should probably just be in business for yourself. You're one of those people, you're kind of stubborn. You like to go figure things out. You like to make a way. You like to have a sense of ownership. I didn't know that's what I needed. So I got into sales pretty quick.
Okay.
Because that gave me a level of independence. Like, I remember somebody was just like, oh, these guys have these things, of all things, selling newspapers in Southside Chicago. And I was like, selling newspapers? I don't know if I could sell anything. And they're like, oh, no, I think you could do it. And these guys are making what was a lot of money for me at the time, $600-700 a week.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are working overnight jobs, Steak and Shake, stuff like that. And working 40, 50 hours. We're going to school, and they were doing this in 20 hours. I was like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I went out there. Dude, when I say I was awful, I was awful. I remember the first time feeling that somebody like slamming the door in my face. I was like, oh, that feels horrible. And then the first time I made a sale, I remember just like the rush.
Yeah, that dopamine hit.
That energy.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I was like running to the block, and I made $15.
Yeah, right. but
like,
it's the best thing ever.
Yeah. And I remember a few months later hitting, like, if you got like 10 in a day, that was like, big you time. Were elite. And I remember the first time hitting 10 in a day, I was like, dude, I love this feeling. Like, I got home, I had one of those like first generation MacBooks that was several years old at that time, but like the college had like a program where they'd give you one.
Sure.
And I recorded like my presentation. Yeah. And I was like, dude, sales is for me.
Sales is it.
And I did that all through college, all through getting my master's. Like, I knew that I liked sales, but again, I liked it for the independence, because production equals tolerance in the sales world. So sales world. So as long as I was doing well, I would get that freedom that I liked so much.
And you did a couple different sales type of roles there. It wasn't just papers. What did you do? What else did you do?
Dude, I sold everything. I sold because and that's like it is when you're making a career in sales. At the time I was like, oh, is something like wrong with me, because I keep going from job to job. But when you meet people who spent a long time in sales, you meet a lot of people who like they're just looking for the better opportunity. So instead of making $600-700 a week, I could do this. I could make $1,000. And though that, I remember I got a contract for selling garbage service in unincorporated country areas.
Gotcha.
And that was the first time I'd made $3,000 in a week. And then there's this energy program, and then there's cable, and then so I kept trying to upgrade my situation.
Sure.
And then I got done with my master's. When you're talking about what finally landed me in being a business owner, an entrepreneur, I got done with my master's. I got back from West Africa. I got my master's in practical theology. I was with a group of missionaries. And that was the first time I'd gotten my head like, I really want to help these guys out financially. And obviously, going to school to be a minister, no one's doing that for the money. So that had never been an aspiration before. Like, of course, if I could always make more money, like I said, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
But to like that be a goal where I'm trying to get a large amount of money for a specific thing, I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I feel like ministry full time isn't for me right now. What can I do to make big money? And that was the first time I'd read Leadership.
Okay.
And I'd listened to some podcasts and stuff like that. So like it was like rolling around in my mind. And like I think I had gotten in there like, okay, business owners can make some really good money.
But I'm going to pause real quick and I'm going to let you keep going. But I think it's really cool to think that like why you wanted to do that. And your purpose was, hey, not just so I could make money, but so that I could give back to, fund other things for the ministry and for, what you've already done with orphanages. But like that was like why you wanted to get in. And I think everybody needs a why. Yeah. Because if you don't have a strong why to be an entrepreneur or even be in sales or do that, when it gets tough, because there are tough days, you find, well, that next best thing, or maybe this isn't for me.
Well, yeah. Well, dude, you hit a great point. And I think a lot of people don't understand how deep that goes. Like, and I'll use myself as an example. I grew up in a pretty impoverished situation. So, dude, like, there were years me and my mom lived off, dude, $5,000 a year. So you talk about these times where I'm making a couple grand a week.
Yeah.
To me, I'm rich.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, dude, like my bills are paid. I have a nice car. I have, I can go eat at a restaurant and not look at my banking app anymore to see if I'm overdrafting my account. So you get to a level where like, okay, I'm satisfied with my level of living.
Sure.
And I think if I didn't have that why, to your point, when, these obstacles come up and it's not as fun anymore, because, there's days where sales and being a business owner, there's days where it's really fun. There's a lot of days where it's not fun.
No doubt.
And if you don't have that bigger reason than just the money in your bank account or the car you're driving, like, dude, for me, I would have checked out as far as like the progression of my business a long time ago. Because I'm like, why am I going to struggle so much? Like, I'm
Right.
happy with the money in my bank account. My bills are paid. Let me just enjoy life.
Right.
But that why, dude, that pushes you.
I think it's so good.
Because like people are depending on you.
One more thing, and then I want you to keep going here. I read a book recently. It was recommended by Joe. I don't know if you've read it or not, but it's called Faith Driven Entrepreneur.
I haven't read it.
It's a fantastic book. So if you're listening out there, check this book out. But the idea is that it's okay, right, as a Christian and as a man of faith, man of God, to be in business. Like a lot of times you get the perception like, well, I'm not in ministry, so I'm really not like in God's will, right? And I think that, again, going back to your story, if I kind of piece that book and what your story is like, that is what you're supposed to be doing, because it's funding and it's being able to do things and impact, right, other people to get God's message out. Yeah. And I think that that's huge, and we don't need to, diminish what that is for people. And a lot of times, again, you can kind of like, well, am I doing everything I could be because I'm doing all this business stuff? Well, the book kind of helps you understand that as long as you have the right intent and you actually are fulfilling and going through with it, and knowing where that purpose lies, that don't be ashamed to proclaim God in your business and run with that.
Dude, I love that. And that means a lot to me too, because like I said, I went to school to be a minister. And in my mind, and I had, heard this echoed when you're in that environment, that like the best thing to possibly be in life is a minister. Yeah. And when I kind of was confronting like my feeling, like I almost felt guilty to where I'm like, I feel like that's not what God wants me to do right now. Sure. And I'm kind of pulling back. And my pastor, Jared, was literally just like, he helped me understand that. He's like, dude, whatever God wants you to do is the greatest thing you can do in your life. Don't let anyone else tell you what 100%. They think the best thing for you to do is. And that advice meant a lot to me and helped me pursue it even more fiercely.
I love it. So you you go through, you graduate. Where are we at now? Pick up the story.
So graduate, I'm running a youth program in Southside Chicago. I'm very content. I love doing it. And I'm kind of like going back and forth. I'm like, okay, I need to like find a place to land. You know, that
Sure.
and so I'm going with a few things back and forth. I had a couple people that were doing Airbnbs, and I was following a couple like moguls that like had these rental arbitrage businesses, and I was like, that appealed to me. I had a friend at a time that was doing real estate, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I get my real estate license and do that, and then literally, dude, serendipity hit. And I'm in this house in Hammond, Indiana that I'm renting, and one of the roommates walked in that I never saw. There's like 6 guys living in this house, and we're all working different schedules, so it's a total bachelor pad. And he comes in looking at his mail, and I'm like, what do you do? Guy's like a year or 2 older than me. He's like, oh, I do insurance. And I was like, oh, insurance. I was like, how's that? And he had told me that week he made like $3,000. I was like, well, that's pretty good. How long you been doing that? He's like, oh, I've been doing it for a couple months, just kind of part-time. I'm like, part-time? I was like, that's pretty good. I was like, explain to me what you do. And he kind of explained to me leads and stuff like that. And we weren't really close, so we really never talked about it again. But that got my mind going. So I literally looked up, I Googled how to take your life insurance exam.
This is crazy.
Went and started like taking it and then looking for opportunities to get into insurance.
Yeah.
And I talked to one kind of brokerage spot that no one was really local. And I found a captive agency spot that was like 40 minutes away. And, I didn't know anything.
Sure.
So I'm like, oh, captive, what does that mean? But they were local, so I bet I'll get good training.
Yeah.
And so I went and got into that. And I mean, thank God that was not my only experience, because if it had been, I probably would have a pretty poor, what's what I'm looking for? I would add a pretty poor, perception of the business. Yeah. Because it was not great. They didn't have leads. Mm-hmm. Your compensation was pretty low. What you could do for clients was really limited. Like, It's so funny being a broker. Like, I would deny people for coverage, the company would, for if they had high blood pressure and diabetes together.
That's which like is every one of our clients
a
now.
lot of people. And I'd be like, basically I'm like, oh, you're uninsurable. And they're like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, yeah, sorry. And that's all I know of the industry.
Right.
And so I actually quit that.
Okay.
And a friend that I had done that insurance opportunity with was still there and would kind of call me back, like, oh, bro, come back. I miss having you here. And dude, one day a guy just walks up to him and is like, what are you getting paid? What's your compensation? This or that. And then he says it, and he's like, oh, I'm starting way higher. He's like, oh, that's not real. Sends a video, and it's kind of our intro into the IMO, a broker world.
Yeah.
And that pulled me back in.
Okay.
And so I started, and right about that time, we talked about the orphanage. That was 2017 that I had been there in Ghana and came back. And that was kind of like, I'd mentioned something to the missionary, and you're talking to somebody who lives sacrificially off $15,000 a year. I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about having an orphanage? He's like, man, that would be so expensive. I'd love to, but I don't know how we would do that.
Yeah.
And that stayed on my heart. And then this was beginning of 2020. Like, I'd learned about this opportunity, the broker space, in like February. And I literally was just like, it's time. And I called him back. I'm like, I think I can do it. And then I got contracted my first week. My second week rather, I sold $7,000 in premium.
Okay.
And I saw that deposit, and I was like, how much would the orphanage cost? He's like, I think it'll be like $50,000. I'm like, we're going to do it this year. That's so cool. And then that is what really pushed me at the beginning, like right off the bat. Like I said, if it hadn't been for that, to your point, if it hadn't been for that why, I would not have gone so aggressively, because we got our office space right away. We got staff right away. I started recruiting people in right away. It was only because I had that big why.
Yeah.
A reason to do something big.
One thing I think is so cool, and this is something that I love doing, is just going back to like the root of how things originated and started, the origin story, right? So back from like just a conversation from a guy who you barely knew and bumped into, has led to, thousands and thousands of people impacted.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible how God orchestrates things like that, and where it leads from. And I love that. I think that you have to wear your jersey all the time. So talk about that a little bit.
Dude, let me give you some more color on that situation, because it really is crazy. So, like I said, we didn't have leads at that captive company. So what we would do, they had a deal with local unions to where they could use their union seal to market to them.
Okay.
And so a lot of the union members were truck drivers. So we would set up at truck stops. My spot, if you know Lowell, Indiana.
Yeah, I know Lowell.
I'm like out of this little truck stop in the middle of nowhere that like these guys going through these big highway routes, they'll stop at their park, they'll stay there for their 30 hours, whatever.
Get their Slurpee.
We got a table with the union seal, and we're just talking to these guys as they come back. What is, hey, we're helping finish your union benefits, that bit, life insurance. And which was like a bait and switch, which I didn't like. That's another reason I didn't stay there very long. This guy literally just walks up and is like, what's your comp? Dude, didn't give us a phone number.
Wow.
Didn't because we would have called him back, be like, who's the person he wasn't even in yet.
Wow.
Like his buddy was trying to get him into the business. He did give us the buddy's information, but the guy, we reached out and he never responded.
So you just researched it on your own and figured out,
we Googled. We researched the name, and then we Googled an office, and there was one in Aurora, Illinois. And this was the week that COVID hit.
No way.
So remember when it first happened?
Oh yeah.
They were you couldn't drive between states. They were do not go into the workplace. So at this time I was in Ohio visiting my mom. I was planning on being there for a few days. I ended up being there for 3 weeks because they said you cannot drive.
Right.
And we're calling this office, dude, nonstop, and no one is there.
Right.
Because
Shut
everything
down the
just
world.
locked down. Dude, so we must have called them 20 times trying to get someone. They had all these voicemails. They finally got back to us. We go up there. Just so happens the guy that had this office had been that company's I don't remember if it was number 3 or number 4 producer. He had personally written $700,000 in business. I called this guy a liar to his face. I'm like, unless you show me bank statements, you are lying. Dude, this guy pulls out his Chase app, and I'm seeing monthly deposits for 50, 60, 70 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing all the insurance carrier names. I'm like, is this real?
Yeah.
And I'm in this office. And then we get contracted. He gets up there, gives us a basic 30-minute training on the presentation that he shows to people. And then he has the stack of paper leads. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, let's start dialing. And he just starts calling. Funny enough, first person that answers, this 23-year-old guy in Lowell, Indiana, where I've been in a truck stop for months, is like, I'm not interested. He's like, I'm not interested either, which I did not think was a good response, but it worked. Booked an appointment, and my buddy went down and sold that appointment for $3,000 AP. Wow. And then a couple weeks later, it took me a little longer to get contracted. So a week or two later, that week, I'm still until the deposit hit in my mind, I'm like, this is still a scam. Right. And then the deposit hits, I'm like, holy guacamole, it's real. It's real.
And then the most infamous line ever, you start telling some people.
Yeah.
And then you tell them what? You have to say it though.
We're going to be rich.
We're going to be rich.
We're going to be rich. Yeah, I did. I did tell a lot of my friends that. Well, I remember, dude, it was, I remember the first time, this was probably a month and a half into it, I got my biggest single sale, which was this really cool guy in Chicago, this banker, and he already had life insurance, but he wanted kind of gave me some pushback, and then he's like, yeah, just show me the options, and I'm showing him ones that are more expensive because he has a big mortgage and he wants the cash back, and ended up being $5,000 AP. Okay. And I remember trying to hold my excitement. I get out, and then when I'm a block away, I'm running up and down the street FaceTiming my friends that are getting into insurance. They're already getting licensed or about to. I'm like, $5,000. I made $5,000.
I love it so much.
Dude, my buddy Sean, Sean Barnes, I remember one time FaceTiming him, and his wife was just done with it, and she's like, "How much did he make now?" Because it was just so new and fresh,
Yeah.
and I think what excited me so much is so many sales jobs I'd done, Greg. They were like a high level of skill, and so I was not that guy that like brought people into what I was doing.
Sure.
You know, people knew I did sales, and I just kind of kept it to myself because, like, I don't know if you could be good at this.
Sure.
But I remember doing this, and I'm like, dude, this is one of the simplest. Like, it was definitely hard work. Don't
Sure.
get me wrong. But it was one of the simplest sales things. And I was like, dude, if people work hard, I think anybody could do this. And so I was excited to recruit people into it because I had all these friends who were doing sales, real estate, pest control, lawn care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're selling anything, it should be insurance.
Yeah.
And if you're selling it with anybody, it should be with your good buddy Gabe. So that made it really easy to recruit.
I love it. So now we're in the business. I want to talk a little bit about Pinnacle, and I want to pivot a little bit and go into that. And like, again, I want to talk a little bit about why Pinnacle and what that journey has been so far.
Yeah. Dude, I can honestly say that I never had any aspirations to own my own IMO. I really didn't. Like I said, my goals have always been in association with my why. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, building a big agency could solve those.
Yeah.
And in my situation, I'm going to speak kind of vaguely here just for fairness to all parties involved. But like, the way that opportunity was originally portrayed to me with the opportunity I was in was not, it's tough when being an entrepreneur is weird because the opportunity, that's something that, I can't guarantee to anybody. Like if I'm recruiting you, I can't guarantee you're going to be a $500,000 a year producer.
Sure.
But what I can be honest to you about is when you hit that, what that will look like to you.
Sure.
I can be like, well, you're like, how much money will I be making? And I can walk you through that.
Yeah.
And so I'll never blame anybody for being like, oh, like they told me I could have a multi-million-dollar team and that's hard. I can't do it. They lied to me. But when you hit those and the way it was portrayed to you was not true, was something that I experienced and my business partner, Joe. And I think when that happened, there was, for one thing, you feel upset. But the second thing was that, dude, we have all these people that have trusted us.
Yeah.
Like friends of a lifetime. Like,
you brought into this.
Like, dude, like people I've known, I've stood in their weddings, and they trusted me. They use this to pay their mortgage, and they've sacrificed and worked hard, and now they're depending on me. Because it got to that point where it's like, if it had just been me, like I don't think I would have made the jump, and I think Joe would say the same thing.
Sure.
But it's like, dude, all these people are depending on us.
Yeah.
And now that we know better, we got to be honest about the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what inspired me and Joe to okay, we got to create, Pinnacle.
Yeah.
And dude, it's been a beautiful, it's honestly led to places. I think when I started the goal, for the first orphanage, we did that and I got there and my mind was expanded to where I was like, dude, how many of these could we do?
Yeah.
And well, actually, I'll be super honest. I think in that moment, I was like, how many of these could I do? And I was still just thinking about me. And then when I started being more vocal about this, I realized how many people had a similar vision and wanted to do something, and maybe didn't even have words. They want to do something and change lives, and they're looking for that thing to be a part of.
Yeah. To latch
and
on
just
to.
like I was as a young, I had, for me, that was the youth ministry in inner city Chicago. I love that.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, when someone directed me towards that, I was like, dude, this is something I can hitch on to because I love this.
Yeah.
And I found out that this mission was something that other people could hitch on to. And then it became, what can we do?
Yeah.
And now, Pinnacle has a goal of doing 100 orphanages around the world. We're going to do 2 more this year, so that'll make 7, which is pretty great. And I don't think, God really expanded my vision, because I don't think I was thinking, and just to be very honest, I think I was very selfish in, only thinking about my goal and like what inspired me, and not realizing how much inspiration that could bring to so many other people.
No doubt.
And now I do think that way.
I think you have to be, and we've talked about this, your goal, your vision has to be big enough to have everybody else's vision inside of it. So, capping yourself and not having a big enough vision can often hinder you and really stunt your growth.
Yeah.
And so you guys have led that way, led the charge there. And, obviously we couldn't be more happy with everything and how you guys have led us. But I love it. I think that, the whole mindset of full open transparency within the opportunity, I love that. That's the way we lead people when we bring them in. There's no pull the curtain back, like you could see everything. We want you to see everything. And then we lead with our main mission, and that's not just a statement. It's, people over profit is how we choose to, conduct business with clients. And a lot of times people, think it's like the people in the business, and yes, that's a part of it, but the way that we decide to treat clients and making sure that they're protected the right way because of the broker space that we're in, that we have all of the tools at our resources available to us. That's the best feeling in the world, being able to do business that way.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like I said, I skipped around to a lot of different industries in sales, and I was like, really like, okay, where do I want to like plant my flag? Dude, the reason that insurance became just like so clearly the answer was what you just said there. It's like, for one, on the very base, the very foundation of it, what we're selling to people is an awesome thing. Like, and I've had at this time, I couldn't even put a number to how many death claims that have paid for people's funerals, paid off their homes for their loved ones, replaced years of income, put their family in a better situation, and also heard the stories where folks didn't have that. And like that inspired me to do that. So that very base of it is very, like, I feel very, very good. Like, dude, I sold lawn care, and if someone has a nice lawn, is it life? No. Right. Like, if you knock on that door and someone's like, I don't care about my lawn, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't care either. Like, it's not that big. Right. But when you're talking about someone's loved ones, and then especially the way to do that with leads, because so much of what I've done was cold calling. So it's like trying to push something on someone. It can feel that way sometimes, that like they necessarily didn't even ask for. But dude, when you get to just talk to people about what they asked for, and you get to talk to them about something that is truly, literally life and death and means a lot to their loved ones, I love that. Then the second level of that is due to helping people provide for their families. Doing something that's really good for the people they're helping. That's a beautiful thing. And then the next level of that is, well, there's 2 more levels. And then the next level of that is where people aren't just thinking about fulfilling, feeding their families anymore. They're thinking about how can they see their dreams fulfilled. So they're thinking big, and like, this is an opportunity that can fuel dreams. People buying their, Angel Gonzalez buying his folks a home, people getting behind, opportunities they support. Like, that's awesome. And then the last level, and this is one that has just expanded my mind, is really what we're talking about, is that making leaders of leaders, to now where this is a machine where it's not just me training agents, it's not just me helping people see their visions, but now we're a team of people that are doing all these things. And it's like, so I'm not doing it, and you and your wife are a great example of that. Like, folks like you make me feel like I'm not alone. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing this together.
I love it. And I think one of the best things that I can, put an analogy to that is we're all pulling on the same side of the rope, and we're stronger together, and we can have way more impact, just with everybody's different skill set, but all having the same vision and mission. I think we wear that well, and I love it. It's a great thing to be a part of, and yeah, I think this has been great. I think this gave, again, a lot of good context to, like, maybe that there's somebody that's out there that's listening that's like, insurance. I talked about this a couple times. Like, I never like thought insurance was something I would do.
Right.
I was like, I sold cars. Like,
Right.
that was my thing. And I financed them. And then I was going to own a dealership. And then, again, same thing. Like, cars are cool, but like, does it really, like, you're going to buy another one in like 3 years.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's not. So I love the aspect too of what we actually get to do and the impact. And then just the evolution of how insurance has grown. Like, you know, it's not so basic as what a lot of people just think, like, oh, life insurance, it pays out when I die. Like, they don't understand that there's so many value adds that insurance companies have come along with these products that we have now, that it's way deeper and can be way more for a lot of people, and they can use it in different ways, which I love too.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's kind of funny. I think everyone has, if I can kind of poke fun at the industry that I'm a part of for a second, you know, everyone's kind of been like, oh yeah, you know, I think I saw something on Instagram the other day that, like, making fun of the Tampa sales bro. And it's like this guy, like, I offer full financial solutions to my clients with a round perspective. And it's like this big, and this guy's like, you sell life insurance. He's like, calm down. But the truth is that many of the financial advisors that I've come to know, and these companies that are doing billions of dollars of managed money and annuities, so many of those people start out in insurance.
Yeah.
And that get into financial services, because that base, you can just keep building on it to where, yeah, you're just worried, you know, if someone dies, and then, okay, well, what if they, you know, get, you know, injured on the job, they can't work anymore, they get really sick, or then you get into, you know, health insurance, and then, okay, what are their retirement options? Mm-hmm. Well, insurance flows into all of those things. It's the biggest open door into financial services there is,
no doubt,
which is pretty cool, because there's a lot of ways for people to skin this cat. You know, you can, yeah, if you want to, like you and your wife have done, you know, open an office and build a team, you can do that. If you just want to be a solo producer, go out there and kill it, dude, you can make boatloads of money just doing that.
I love it.
And so I really love the diversity that the industry provides.
No doubt. All right, we're gonna do a couple more minutes,
okay,
and then we'll wrap up. I always do this at the very end. I got a couple rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So if we were to go, and I don't know if this is, and what is your preferred streaming service if you're gonna pop on the TV, or is there not something? Is that not a thing in the Gabriel Erickson household?
Dude, it definitely is.
Okay.
And I'm gonna get firebomb for my answer right now.
Okay. What if we had to? What's the streaming service first?
Disney Plus.
Okay. If we were to pop open Disney Plus, what is the current most watched show?
Bro, it's everything Star Wars. It's probably like The Mandalorian.
Okay. All right. I get behind The Mandalorian.
And you know what? I guess, dude, and Netflix and Breaking Bad. Dude, I probably watched Breaking Bad like 8 times through.
Classic.
Yeah.
It is a classic. You have to watch that one. If you haven't, go check it out. All right. And then I'm going to do this. Glenn actually failed this really terrible on his podcast. So let's see if you can be
the pressure is
a little
on.
bit better. I'm going to put a timer on my phone.
Oh, man.
Basically, what we're doing here is we're going to see how many states and capitals you can name in 60 seconds. States and capitals. I'm not giving you any heads up, and we're just going to hit the timer, and then 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Columbus, Ohio. Indianapolis, Indiana. Dallas, Texas. Washington, D.C. Does that count? No.
I love this.
Los Angeles, California. New York, New York. Something, Rhode Island. Raleigh, North Carolina. No, Charlotte, North Carolina. What's Florida? Jacksonville, Florida?
No help from me.
How much time do we have?
We have 15 seconds.
This is
fill up
painful.
Here.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
You know New Mexico?
Yeah, Breaking Bad, dude. Seattle, Washington. I should just go big
3
cities.
seconds.
I should have just gone big cities.
Time.
Okay.
All right. We'll see how well we'll tally this up on the boards. I think there was a few in there that were absolutely not right. But we'll
Dude,
do
that's
the check
a
marks.
brutal. What a mean test to play on your guess. We had such a good vibe.
You feel defeated when you
Like,
go out
hey,
here.
okay, let's talk about purpose, now geography for
Yeah.
the last 60 seconds.
Listen, I had a line in my wedding, in my vows to my wife, where she still thinks that Cincinnati is actually a state and not a city. So, like, I was like, hey, I'm still going to love you regardless, even though you don't know geography. So
Yeah.
I feel the same way about you,
It's
bro.
Cleveland, Ohio, isn't it? It's not Columbus. No, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's definitely not Dallas.
I'm gonna
it's Austin.
I'm gonna
Texas.
be second. I'm gonna be second thinking this all day. You ruined my day.
Well, guys, hopefully you got some value out of today. Stay tuned for the next episode. This has been the Kitchen Table Podcast.